Awesome. Yeah, so first of all, I am so excited to be here today. If you need to know one thing about me, I am very passionate about passion. So this talk I was just like so excited and stoked to be here. And yeah, just a disclaimer, I am not, I don't have PhD or a ton of degrees. I didn't make a bunch of publications or write tons of books like some of these awesome speakers have done. But I have gone through like this amazing experience and I just can't not share it. I just feel like I've learned so much from it. I'm only gonna like skim over some of it, but if you have more questions, please feel free to come up to me and ask me later. Yeah, so here's the lowdown of what I'll attempt to cover in these 15 minutes. So first of all, I'm just going to tell you my story. It's a true story. It really happened. You can ask my friends or my mom who's sitting right there. And I'm going to cover 3 main lessons amongst many that I feel like God really revealed to me through this story. And lastly, I'm going to talk about you. We are all here because we are interested in passion and different topics. So I just really wanted to delve into like how does that apply for us all here. And not just myself. So yeah, I'm gonna start with a little bit about me. So I grew up actually right here in the Bay Area and actually right here in Fremont. My old house is like literally 10 minutes away from here. So it's kind of funny how God like brings you back in circles that way. And I graduated from UC Berkeley, Haas School of Business. My mom's laughing because I put her in the picture there. But she's really beautiful, and she did not pay me to say that. And yeah, she has been such a support to me, and I owe so much to her. But yeah, I basically studied business, and the main reason why I studied business was not because I was super interested in becoming a businesswoman. I actually just wanted to take the marketing and advertising electives that they offered. So I'll talk more about that later. And lastly, I currently work at Google as a product marketing manager, and I'm in this like rotational program that they have geared towards recent grads. And it's been about a year now, and yeah, so the whole point of me sharing today is basically how I got from when I was born to the third point, working at Google. And you might be wondering, like, out of all stories, like, why this one? So from college students to job seekers to parents who want their kid to go to Google, everyone asks me, Grace, how did you get in? Like, what is the secret? What is the formula? And so, yeah, I just quickly started to realize when I was telling people about it, because it was a total like God story, just how amazing of a testimony and like an opportunity it is to witness to people about God. And yeah, so I hope it like speaks to you today as well. And it all started really with this thing called Kid Pics, which was a long, long time ago. Anyone here ever heard of Kid Pics? A few people? Yeah, awesome. Not surprised because it's like technology track. But yeah, it's basically like a really dumbed down version of Photoshop for kids, kind of similar to Microsoft Paint, which thank goodness they're keeping. And I actually came across this at a Scholastic book fair when I think I was in first grade, and my mom helped pick it out because she knew I was a very creative person and I like to do art. That in combination with Neopets really was what jump-started my passion for marketing. If anyone knows Neopets, it's basically like the Facebook for kids based on fictional creatures online that you take care and feed, which was very smart of my mom to let me do because she didn't want pets in our house. So it's a very good way for parents, like please your kids if they want pets. And so that actually all culminated into my love for just like using HTML and graphic design to make like websites and things on Neopets, which is really crazy. This is just Paint Shop Pro before Photoshop existed. And I just really like delved into all this stuff like endlessly. I spent hours just like creating like MySpace layouts later on around 6th grade. Anyone here had a MySpace before? A MySpace account? Yeah. It was like the OG Facebook before Facebook. So I realized like by using these skills of like HTML and graphic design, I could actually transform the default layouts, that's MySpace Tom, to customize layouts, like anything from something cute like that to something like fandom crazy, like Twilight. And it just like really opened my eyes to just like, I was just fascinated. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. How can I use these skills that I'm accumulating? And I don't know why I'm so interested in it, but I just feel like the need to like use it for something bigger than myself. Yeah, it was really like this whole mentality of like, some people say the world is your oyster, but I really saw it as the world as my canvas. That I just made this website called Graphics, Etc. I don't have a logo or any evidence that it existed, but again, you can cross-check with my mom. But it basically provided like MySpace layouts and graphics to people to use on MySpace, Neopets, and all that, because I had like received that from other people too. So I call this the craze phase because I honestly was just like crazy about everything marketing, even before I knew what marketing was. Like I didn't even hear of the term marketing until like late high school when we had to, because we were trying to like pick majors that you could apply to for college. And I was like, oh, marketing, that sounds like exactly what I've been doing my whole life. And so like throughout my whole life and even up until college, I just made like a bunch of flyers and logos and websites, as well as like delved into social media. Just like I was so obsessed with how do we strategically use social media to like promote people's websites, people's causes and their organizations, and it all started because I made graphics, etc. and Neopets pet pages, and learned how to like promote those things. And so, yeah, it just really organically led to me just diving into all kinds of internship and volunteer experiences that were marketing related. And so I was never like really focused on like, oh, I need to like pursue marketing as a goal. It was always like, I just love it and I don't know why, but I'm just gonna do it and learn as much as I can. I'm running out of time, so really quick, the story of how I got into Google was basically I was in Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley, and it's a very competitive culture. People always compare each other. Instead of saying, how are you, like normal people, students say, how's recruiting? Like, how's your job search? And it's so stressful. And so actually it really started getting to me my senior year when I was like, oh shoot, like maybe I should get it together and like apply to consulting, apply to like accounting, like basically broaden my chances of getting a job because everyone else already had a job. And so this was me, basically applying to all kinds of things, mass applying, and just feeling really burnt out and frustrated because I wasn't getting any positive response. And so this happened, which was like a retreat that my fellowship InterVarsity does every fall. And the whole theme of that retreat was actually faith over fear. And so I had actually realized from this retreat that instead of asking God, because I was asking God, can you just tell me what to do? Can you just give me an answer of what to apply for? I had been giving him multiple choice answers rather than fill in the blank. And I just realized like God really did want me to surrender my job or like whatever he had planned for me and not put in like my own conditions. And so, yeah, I just really realized, like, if I say I follow God, it means following him anywhere he calls me to, whether that's marketing or education or writing or campus ministry. But this also led to being really freed and like, oh, yay, like God has my back, to also being really confused because this is just like an endless vacuum of possibility. And so I was just so confused. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And at the same time, I actually got a job offer for another tech company doing not something marketing related, but it was kind of like intriguing in some sense. But there was just something like I couldn't explain in my heart about like the lack of peace that I had about this job offer. And it was just so weird because any logical person would have been like, oh, you should take it. It's a job offer and it seems pretty interesting to you. But there was just something stirring in my heart about God actually exactly what Ron was talking about. God literally was telling me, just wait on me. Like, I know it doesn't make sense right now, but just wait on me. I have something better. And it just like really didn't make sense to me because I was like, God, I literally applied to every job I could think of. I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, I just had that sense of he wants me to wait. And secondly, I learned from just like consulting a bunch of graduates and alumni and mentors that I really couldn't make a wrong decision if I had the right heart posture. And I think that goes for a lot of things when it comes to decision making. We're always like, oh, I need to like do the right thing, you know, what is the right thing? But I really learned that God really actually cares much more about our hearts than what we actually do. And so whether I took this job or another job, it would be okay because he would be with me if I really go in with the right intention to glorify him. But I still just turned it down. I just didn't feel right about it. And so that left me jobless yet again, but also like asking God, okay, like I'll continue to wait on you and I'll continue to apply here and there, but I'm not going to stress out. And I honestly felt like a huge load was just like lifted off my shoulders because of this. And then came this awesome thing called URBANA, which was that winter. And URBANA is basically like this huge student missions conference about how to do missions in every sector of the world. And the takeaway from this conference was a resounding yes in my heart that God was calling me to the marketplace, because I was on a business track at this conference and met a bunch of business leaders and people who basically vocalized what my heart had already been feeling this whole time about how to like be a part of his redemptive work in the business realm. And so, yeah, it was just like, I couldn't explain it. I was just like, oh my gosh, God, like, yes, you have confirmed my calling, or at least my passion for going into marketing and using those skills for him. And then right after that, I actually went to this tech conference called CES. Some of you may know of it. It was actually in Las Vegas, and I was really dreading going to this thing actually because I knew that it was going to be very different from that spiritual, safe environment to a very secular environment. But the crazy thing about this is on the plane ride over, I met a Christian couple on the plane who was using their business as a way to be missionaries for God in the business realm. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, God, you are basically showing me that you are here too, and confirming that like wherever you are leading me, you're already there. And so it was just crazy. That week, he opened my eyes to really see like the brokenness in tech, and but not like the hopelessness. It was more like there's so much opportunity for harvest here. And so, then something crazy happened that week. I got this email from Google. It was so bizarre because I had heard of this APMM program before, but I actually I just disqualified myself. I was like, there's no way, like, people at Haas are crazy competitive, like, they're definitely getting in before me. And so by the time I checked the application, it had already closed. So I was like, oh, it's okay, like, probably wouldn't have gone in anyway, and God has other plans for me. But yeah, I got this email out of the blue, and I was like, okay, interesting, like, it kind of aligns with like everything I am feeling and thinking about. God is up to something. And so I just went through the interview process with Google, and this was me. So basically, I felt like every round of the interviews was like me being an onion, being peeled layer after layer, God reminding me to just like let go of the results and just trust that he was doing a good work. Whether or not I got it, whether or not like the result was like good or bad, like he had me in his hands, and he was doing this work for a reason. And so I actually feel like a lot of people look at like the end result as like the blessing, but like the real blessing was actually just like the refinement process of going through this whole waiting on him and trusting him, and really like him teaching me to let go and surrender, just like what Ron was saying earlier. Yes, let go of results. Sorry, I'm bad at timing this. And so lastly, the last thing that happened was at yet another conference, that's when God really spoke to me about surrender. So it was like the week before I found the result about my Google offer, and it was there that God just really like showed me, actually through kind of the same story that Ron was saying about Abraham. He asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, his only son, that he waited for like 25 plus years, and Abraham was like in his 100 years old when God gave him Isaac. But God literally asks Abraham to sacrifice his only son for him. And I can't read it from here, but basically Abraham doesn't even question God, which is so bizarre to me. I was like, oh my gosh, like Abraham's faith is unreal. He just like follows exactly what God asks of him, and he's about to sacrifice his son before God says, no, it's okay, like I've already provided a ram as a sacrifice. And so Abraham names that place God has provided. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, that is exactly what God was speaking into my situation about whether or not like he was going to take away or give me this job offer. It wasn't mine to hold on to in the first place. That he always gives us things, but he can also take it away. And it's not ours to just grasp onto or say that we own it just because he bestows it onto us. And so yeah, I was very like released from the pressure of like the result at that point. But yeah, you can probably guess what happened at the end. But basically, the 3 big lessons I took away from this whole process was that, first of all, God really, like, his ways really are perfect. Like, we say that and we think it, but, like, how many times do you actually believe that his ways really are perfect? So just, like, we don't have to worry about anything, really. Like, he is always going ahead of us, forging the way, and we just have to, like, follow him and trust that it'll all turn out exactly how he planned it. The second thing was to seek God first, and all else will fall into place. I think this really just showed me, like, instead of looking at everyone else and comparing myself and scrambling for job offers, it was just, God, like, how do I meet you? Like, how do I just talk and dialogue with you and just trust you and build that relationship of trust with you? And literally every time I've done this in my life, and I'm sure many of you can relate in your own stories, God has always just come through with everything else in a more perfect way than we could ever have orchestrated ourselves. And lastly, it really showed to me that, wow, like, I can't overlook my passions or my interests or what God has put on my heart. Like, those are legitimate things. And so he really just showed me through this that pursuing your passion really is worth it. I honestly, like, if I hadn't, had all those marketing experiences before, I don't think I would be here today because, it's like, it's really just like following what you love to do and what he puts on your heart that, like, ironically, like, builds up your experience in that way that sets you up for what he wants to deliver you into after. Yes, that's a heart. So yeah, in the last few minutes, let's talk about you. So why should we even pursue our passion? It's so hard, it's so difficult, it sounds like such a heady thing. But I just wanted to read this verse real quick from 1 Peter. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks as one who speaks oracles of God, whoever serves as one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him belong glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. And yeah, I just, like, reading that, it just reminds me again, like, God really does, he wants us to step in, to use those things that he's given us, and he, like, really trusts us to do it well. And so it's almost like an act of honor, like honoring God by using the things that he gives us, that he trusts us with. And I almost see it as, like, kind of like stewardship, like responsibility to use those things that he gives us well. And so how do we exactly do that? That is a whole nother talk that I could, like, go on forever about, but here are, like, the basic things to cover. And I really think it's important to revisit your story. I think so many times we think of passion as something we have to, like, chase after, and so we kind of, like, look in the future for passion. But really, like, God has already been writing your story. He planted those things in your childhood, in your experiences, and so, like, if you think of it in that way, it's like, how can God be weaving a narrative that I can, like, step into? And so I think it really helps to just visit that. Secondly, what strengths and gifts have other people pointed out? I think oftentimes we, especially as, like, Silicon Valley workers, we are so hard on ourselves. We see only our weaknesses, but, like, so many other people, like, affirm and see things in ourselves that we often don't see. And so just think about, like, affirmations or things that people have pointed out in the past that maybe you can leverage and, like, use that as, like, a launch pad. Thirdly, if it will work. What do you observe God doing in the world? So oftentimes people will say vocation is the intersection between what you can do, what you like to do, and what the world needs. And so it's really important to kind of like see and ask God, like, what are you doing around me? What are you drawing my attention to? What areas of brokenness do you want me to be part of your redeeming work with? And so, yeah, I just think that like God really put us here to be redeemers of the earth, to restore the brokenness, and yeah, really to just like be part of the healing process and not just wait for him to come back and make everything better. Fourth, prototype your life and keep iterating. So the thing about this is I think a lot of people think about passion as like a destination, something that you arrive at, but that arriving mentality really is a myth. It's a constant process of rethinking, retrying things, exploring different passions and interests, because God is always on the move. He's always active. And so it's just important for us to just keep trying things, keep doing things, and just always dialoguing with him about, God, where are you leading me now, and how can I trust you? And just knowing that his grace already covers us, so it's okay to fail, mess up. Like he is already like with us and has our back. And lastly, but not leastly, is prayer. I put this last because it's like a given, not because it's least important. But yeah, definitely, like it's so important to pray and always be talking with God about what he's doing, because if we are just like wandering off ourselves, it's so hard to really like know what God is up to. So yeah, like he really is the source of everything that we should do, and true thriving comes only from him as a source. So I really believe that like through prayer and just like constantly asking him, like, God, what are you up to? How can I partner with you? How can I not start something new by myself over there, but how can I like ride your wave and like be a partner of what you're already doing, is just so important. And really like the key to thriving and seeing his blessing here on earth. So really quick, I just wanted to introduce this concept of passion, because we are all here passionate about passion. And I think oftentimes we just see like passion as a starting point. Like we have to find our passion before we can like do it. But Dave Evans, who is like a brilliant author and Stanford professor, who I actually got a chance to meet again this week, he actually says, no, it's not the starting point. It's the constant outcome of just living a life well lived with God leading the way. And then so if you see it this way, it's like you're constantly like in this movement and this momentum, and God is just like revealing to you more and more things about your passion on the way. And so yeah, I think it really is not the starting point, but it's more of like the concurrent occurrence and outcome of just a life well lived with him. So yeah, before I wrap up, I just wanted to give you guys 2 highly recommended resources if you're interested in more. So Designing Your Life by Dave Evans and Bill Burnett. They're 2 amazing Stanford professors. They wrote this book called Designing Your Life, which is the most popular Stanford elective. And you can go to their website for more. And secondly, this awesome seminar from that URBANA conference I talked about. I made a bit.ly link if you guys want to go to that. It's called Discerning Vocation, Asking the Right Questions. And it really, really helped me to ask myself the right questions when I was dialoguing with God about who he made me to be and who he was calling me to be alongside that. So yeah, thank you.
We Mass Media, media empowering community.